Hey guys, welcome to my channel and great SolarWinds and GNS3 integration course. So before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like the video to get every new update almost every day. And if you haven't seen my previous lesson, please click here to watch it. So in today's lesson, I'm going to monitor the devices that previously we added them to the SolarWinds NPM server. So let me use maximum size here. Here, as you can see, we have the device up and down. Up, clear, it refers to the devices that is up right now and you can monitor it. And the device that you cannot monitor it is going to be down, which is going to be disconnected from the network, or something like if it is Windows or Linux is going to be maybe shutting down or things like that. So, and here we have the microtip. As you can see, we have the category, the devices is going to detect it by their category here. So here we have the microtik device and a Windows category. So great. Before we go ahead, let's add the third device, which is going to be our Cisco switches. So I'm not sure about the IP address. Let's actually connect to the device and say show IP interface brief 10.10.10.4. So let's say enable and config terminal. And here we'll say SNMP. Again, we want to actually add SNMP community. Lab RO access list 2, and access list 2 is going to permit, access list 2 is going to permit only our SolarWinds server. And we'll say do WR. So that's great, and we'll go back. Here we'll type the IP address. It's going to be 4. And we'll scroll down here, we'll say next. So this is the process of adding our devices to the SolarWinds NPM server, which is very easy. As you can see, you should define the node, choose the resources, add polar, and change properties. So, and these are the resources, which are going to be our interfaces, topology layer, and CPU routing, and BGP neighbors, or things like that. We're going to click on next. And this is the default like that we did before in previous devices. And we're going to say add a node. So now the node has been added to the category. We'll go to dashboard and summary. And here we'll see the switch on the Cisco category. So we'll go to R1, and we want to actually talk about how we can monitor our routers, switches, or windows in a real device like this router. So here we can edit the node, which obviously by clicking this option, you can edit the node. For example, you can say only I want to actually monitor the device by ICMP, or for example, I want to install the agent if it is the Windows. Simply here you can add the credential of that Windows. For example, let's say Windows servers or things like that. And here you can type the password. For a domain, you should type like this domain and administrator or whatever user that you have, and type the password and confirm it and say test. Is going to actually install the agent on that Windows or Linux operating system. And down here, and these are the option for monitoring VMware or things like that, which is very simple. So we'll go back, and then we have the option list resources. Here we can define, for example, let's say this is a layer 2 switch and we don't need to monitor a routing table, a BGP, or something like topology layer 3 because this is a layer 2 and we don't need loopback and annual interfaces and things like that, and we can submit. So you may be wondering why sometimes you need actually to go here and uncheck some of them. In some cases, maybe you have a very massive network and your SolarWinds running out of memory. It's better that actually go to each devices and only select the options that you want. In that case, you will redesign the unwanted traffic from your devices and monitoring protocol to your SolarWinds server in case that you don't have much memory or CPU for your server and you want to actually monitor only the specific parameters that you want. And here you can see the polars here is going to be, for example, if we select this, is going to actually monitor the CPU and fan off the switch or something like power supply or things like that. You can click and assign them to the switch or Cisco routers. And here you can see poll now. Let's say that you go here and change the polling method, for example, from WMI to SNMP. Here you will click poller now to actually repoll your devices from the beginning, and you actually refresh this page for that device. And here you can say rediscover the device. Sometimes you see that, for example, the node is down and you actually go to edit node and configure the SNMP again. You want to rediscover it again. You can use this option before actually doing troubleshooting. For example, in case the device is timeout or not connected to the network, or there is some other issues that you can use for rediscover that device. And here the MIP browser, of course, here you can see the MIP file, whatever MIP file, or here you can actually type the OID and you can search for a specific OID and you can add it here. And you can see, for example, for IEEE, we have these kind of OIDs. So that's great. These are the OIDs that you can see if you need which one of, for example, you have a specific device and that device cannot be monitored by SNMP or other monitoring protocol. They will give you the OID, and here you can actually copy that OID and paste it here to search if it exists or not, or you can actually add it manually from here. So let's go back. And now we add the new alert here, which later on I'm going to tell you how we can do it. Very simple, very easy. You can add an alert, or I should say trigger, for a specific severity and alert. So let's go back here. And here we can delete the node. We can connect to that device by SSH. But obviously we didn't define the SSH on our routers. Of course, it's going to be telling us that the credential is wrong. And if you need to connect to your device by this option, which is a great option, you should configure SSH on your Cisco devices. And here we have performance analyzer. Here you can see, for example, we have several options based on the hours and date. You can configure them, CPU, average load, and average percentage memory, and things like that. You can scroll down and see the graphs. And lastly, we have the option actually to go to the maintenance mode. And for example, let's say on manage now, or for example, let's say mute alert now, or you can say we have the time stop polling here from this time to this time. So why we should use this option? let's say we have the maintenance day and we want to actually clean the server room or things like that, that you do it in your routine job for maintaining your server room, and you want to actually shutting down your server rooms, or I don't know, your switches or things like that. You say stop polling for this time to this time. What is this option actually? As you can see, this is for 1 day, or you can say, for example, for a specific day, for example, for let's say 3 or 4 hours, and we'll say schedule, because you'll define the trigger for that devices. And in that case, if you don't choose the maintenance here, you will see a lot of alert in your inbox, in your, I don't know, messages or whatever that you define in your triggers for that device. Let's say this is your core router and you define the alert for, let's say, for 2 or 3 administrators. They will get annoyed by that messages from the Orion server that every 10 minutes is gonna send them the email notification or SMS notification or things like that. So we can say manage again actually, but is better actually for maintenance. You set the mute alert actually with this option. This device won't send any notification that you defined for the specific user account, something like email address or SMS or things like that. So great. And here down we have the node details. As you can see, the node status is unknown because we actually enter to the maintenance mode. That would be okay after 1 or 2 minutes, or less than 5 minutes, you will see it okay. And polling IP address and dynamic IP no, which is obviously is a static IP address. And this is the machine type. It is Cisco, node category, network, system name, which is host name of your device, and the description of your iOS, and the location, contact, and this is the OID uses by this device. And last boot and things like that. We'll scroll down here. You can access the web console of your device, which obviously is not configured. And again, here we have the polling method, which is going to be SNMP, and this is the polar device. And if you have a massive network, you will define several SolarWinds polling engine server to help these SolarWinds to actually poll the devices and send them to the SolarWinds server. So in that case, you will distribute the load between several polar server and send all that traffic from all the devices to your SolarWinds main server. So that's great. And here the polling interval is going to be 2 minutes, as you can see, and next poll is going to be at this time. And we'll scroll down here. We can see the statistics, collection, and things like that. And this is the custom properties for node. We can actually define some values here, which is editing the device. And here all alert actually for triggering, we can say manage, or we can define the trigger here. Actually, you can power on this trigger, or we can, for example, define which one of them as you like. And some of them actually is on by default. It is gonna alert you when server is not up, or when the virtual IP address is not up, or things like that. So we'll go back here to the edit setting of that device. And here we have log analyzer, which is warning, and we scroll down. This is the all alert for that device option. And we scroll down here. We can see active alert on this device. Neighbor is down, which is obviously it is our router 2 is down. So that's great. And here we can see the availability statistics. you can click on it and see the availability of that option. So, and again, we'll scroll down, top CPU by percentage. These are graph actually very easy to understand, and event summary, the device triggered, or things like that. Here we can see R1 is warning. Why? You can click and see why it is actually, it got warning. Actually, it was because of the maintenance mode that we enter, and here we have the R1 down, critical, or things like that. This is great option, event summary. And we'll scroll down here, we can see the current percentage utilization of each interfaces. Obviously, because we only have this interface, we can see the statistics of that interfaces. Here it tells you the graph actually, and these are the IO error and things like that. Of course, it's gonna show you the summary of that interfaces. So let's say go back, and these actually CPU capacity and memory, it needs time actually to gather information. In some cases you may need to wait 2 or 3 days. And this is the node resource capacity forecast. Actually it needs a few days, something like 7 days to gather information. And here you can add the node for your router. And up here we can actually customize these options. Actually we can drag them by clicking this option, and here we can say done. So each device can be customized. For example, let's go again here, and I want to bring up the availability statistics and the alert. We don't need this option. And again, we'll click on here, and we'll scroll down, we'll say done. So that's great. Our availability statistics went up, and we remove that widget, which I forget the name of it. And here we have the vital state, which is going to give you the response time, packet loss, which is great graphs for each devices. You can find them in the vital state. And here's the CPU, memory, and things like that. Actually, I don't want to talk about them because they are very easy to understand and focus. And here we can go to network. Here we can see the interfaces. R1 is connected to R2. Let's say, for example, only layer 2 devices or only layer 3 devices. You can define, and this is the interface that connected to MikroTik in the same VLAN, and here is the out of memory chart and things like that. Each one of them gives you the great chart that you can monitor. And as I said before, it may take several days actually to give you a great chart here. And some of them, as you can see, they are need actually to configure. For example, multiple object chart. Here we'll say edit, and we can define, for example, for node, percent loss, or things like that. And you will see the graphs here. And here we have the interfaces. Here we have the R1 interface. Because only we have one interface, you cannot see any information here, but in your production environment, if you click on your switch or routers, you will see the graphs or great map here, and here is the map for your device. Here it said that device actually connected to, for example, your MikroTik in your production environment. In your production environment, it tells you this device connected to, for example, above layer or down layer. Because we use the flat or very simple network, SolarWinds, it may need actually times to realize the devices, but that would be okay. These two interfaces, it makes sense in your, oh, here again we'll see the okay, and here we can see, for example, the error for that interface. So that's great. And the status, let's say for example utilization, error, name, or things like that. And again for the map, if you actually power on your R2, you will see the layer 2 map here. And here we can add the tab for your columns here. For example, let's click on vital state. Here we can see in column 1 we have response time, packet loss, or things like that. We can actually add another column here, or we can, for example, remove this one and this one and this one, and we'll say done. Here you can customize the pages. So for vital state, here we have only 2 columns, column 1 and column 2. This is how you can even customize your pages. Click on add tab, and here we'll scroll down. Let's say for hardware, we can say, for example, we don't need failure or the overview. So that's great. So this is how you can monitor your devices and customize the pages on your SolarWinds Network Performance Monitor. And here is my website. If you want to actually learn more about SolarWinds, you should go to courses and network monitoring, and we'll go to SolarWinds. Here you can see a great and complete course about how you can monitor step-by-step SolarWinds Network Performance Monitoring course. I'm going to talk about NPM, NCM, NTA, or a NetFlow Traffic Analyzer, or Network Configuration Manager. Here you can manage your devices. You can actually take backup from your iOS. You can upload the configuration. You can actually change the configuration or things like that. The course is more than 7 hours, and I can help you actually. We can support you by this option, which is online chat, or of course remote support by TeamViewer, and will give you all the installation file, for example the SolarWinds NPM exe file or iOS, or for example through the entire course you will need several files to actually install NTA, or for example SQL Server or things like that. We'll give them all actually, and will help you. Don't waste your time to actually just focus on a learning path. And if you're not satisfied with the course, actually we're not satisfied. And here it is what is included: 2 videos and 12 files. Here is the content. I highly recommend you enroll in this course. It's very great and complete course. You can learn whatever, for example, alert activity, polling, high availability on SolarWinds, NCM configuration, and here we have NTA module. And these are the installation files, something like you will need the exact version of Windows Server 2019. This is the great version of Windows that we've actually tested SolarWinds, and this is the VMware workstation, and these are the installation files and things like that.